Talks to Jill. We're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I am Patrick Wall.
And this is Mission Control.
Yes, it
Houston.
is.
We do not have a problem.
I need a go, no go for launch.
Yes, yes.
Can we change our intro to William Shatner speak singing that famous Ground Control to Major Tom song?
No.
No.
Pass.
It's so iconic.
Your go for launch of the episode. And in this episode, we told you last week, what are we talking about?
NASA movies.
Yeah.
What's
NASA? I will beat you so hard.
We'll hit you so hard your children will feel it.
What's a Nubian?
What's a Nubian?
I don't know why, but when Gavin said "What's NASA," I could only think of the Trailer Park Boys episode where they go to Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
And then I immediately thought of that one quote we've been saying for like a month at this point.
Oh.
Aren't there trains that go faster than a speeding bullet? Yeah, they're called bullet trains, and they're in fucking Japan.
How many bullet trains in America, Ricky? Jesus, Murphy. Well, so we're going to, so for you, the viewers, we decided we were going to talk about NASA movies because I love space.
Yes.
I don't think I'd have the wherewithal to be trapped in one of those capsules.
The final frontier.
Yes. These are the voyages
You
of
know,
the
they
Space Shuttle Enterprise.
they still have the shuttle launch right at.
Oh man, I could have watched Star Trek
at,
movies.
I will beat you
what's the where you go drinking around the world?
around the world.
Yeah, the park,
Epcot?
Epcot. I know it was an E. I couldn't think of the name.
APCOT.
I've yet to meet someone who can finish the around the world tour at Epcot. In case you don't know, there is a little game that Disney, for some reason, won't make official.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder why.
So you start at one of the pavilions, and then you go around the world having a drink in every pavilion. And I've yet to meet someone who can make it through all of the pavilions.
It's not really the making it through it. It's also the affordability aspect.
Yeah, no shit.
Every drink is like $87
Yeah.
for a sip.
Probably the best deal you get is like the limoncello because you can get the bottle of that at the Italy Park.
Oh, okay.
But that shit is strong. It's not like you go to the ABC store. It's like real
This
Italian.
ain't no LaCroix.
Yeah, this is Italian limoncello, and it is. Woo!
Disney can afford to have it imported.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Well, the way Disneyland Paris is going, they're probably just taking all of their inventory, hoping to shut it down.
I think it's more doable in the like in the cooler, like around Christmas time. You know, about the only time that we're cooler here with no humidity. But you try that stuff over there.
Oh, you'll die of heat stroke.
In Orlando in the middle of summer.
No.
So
You gotta wait for the dead of February.
important safety tip.
Important to say, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Egon.
From our thoughts to your ears, here we are.
There's something important
Also,
I meant
we
to
do
tell
not-
you guys. You like in the middle of the walkthrough, don't drink the limoncello.
Yeah.
Why? It could be bad. I'm fussy in this whole good bad thing.
By
I
the
also
way-
want to say Movie Talks and Chill does not endorse this little
Yeah,
game.
right.
I do not want to be found
Oh
liable.
yeah. By the way, it's right in the middle of your tour.
So far, the NASA talk's going great.
So let's talk NASA.
Yes.
All right. Now, who wants to kick this one off? Like, do we want to do... Because I know I prepared by rewatching a movie to the end. And then I'm also happy to talk about Armageddon. I will make that argument to the day that will be the mountain that I die on. That is a NASA movie.
Okay.
Well, I can kick it off because I will go for one that is 100% about the
NASA.
official NASA program.
I'll go second because mine is newer than yours.
Yes, mine's old.
Mine's in the middle.
Mine's like 1981, I think.
Okay.
So
The Last Starfighter.
no, close.
Damn it. I did recently rewatch that movie.
Alex Rogan.
And the
Centauri
kid
was not
doesn't-
in this movie.
Then the kid doesn't want to be a starfighter. I give up.
Such a good movie. Why did I waste 2 hours of my life?
Adventure.
Cassandra. Uli Mansuela. Prita. Anyways, so 1981, by the way, that was 1984 that came out, Last Starfighter. 1981, there is a movie that came out, or it's 80 or 81, somewhere around there. It's called The Right Stuff. Now,
I've heard of it.
I would have recommended you watch this, but I know your mindset and longevity of things. If it's not weird tentacle animation or John Wick,
yeah. I like or good sci-fi.
yeah. Well, so it's not sci-fi. It's actually based off the real story of the creation of NASA. But it's about 3 hours long. It's 3 hours 3 minutes long. So
I almost died watching a 2-hour movie.
yeah. So this was great stuff. It's got a lot of great people. Dennis Quaid's in it. Ed Harris is in it. I mean, it's got a lot of people in the movie, but basically, it's about the making of the space program, the creating of it. So it starts off back in 1950 something or 40 something, and it's when Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier, and they brought all these pilots together and they were forming it, and so basically then Sputnik gets launched, and that's basically what kicked off the whole space race. As soon as Sputnik goes up, then they were challenging to get somebody in the up in space first, and obviously the Russian Yuri Gagarin got up there first. So then they were like, okay, we need to get up there now. So they decided we need to have people that can do this. How are we? We can get up there at some point, but we need people to be
survive
in the capsule and do it as well. And originally, a bunch of people wanted to go through. People did like stunts and special, did different things. Like they had some really crazy ideas, and it was Eisenhower and what's his name? Maybe it was Lyndon B. Johnson. Can't remember exactly, but it was one of them, and they basically demanded that they wanted test pilots to run this program, and nobody wanted test pilots to do this program because test pilots back then, they were daring. They were awesome.
They were Matt Boomer from Doom Patrol.
They were everything except easy to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, because they were doing all this stuff, they thought that they were top of the list.
Yeah,
And
to be fair, they were.
Oh, they were, but they knew it too well.
Yeah.
And so to deal with them was very, so nobody wanted, but anyway, they pushed it and they got test pilots. So, they got people from the, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and that's where you get your your original astronauts, the original 7, I believe it was. So you have like your Wally Shiraz and Gordon Coopers and John Glenn and
Buzz Aldrin.
Well, no, he came later. He was in the new 9 or the next set of people. Alan Shepard, first American in space. So it's about all them basically. And it tells the whole story of like the stuff they had to go. Like it really digs deep. Like if you watched From the Earth to the Moon, the miniseries that HBO did, that's a really good show. But that covers the entire program. This one only covers up till the end of the Mercury program, because the Mercury program was the first set of programs to basically get up in space, see how a person would handle being in space, and they always flew solo. So it wasn't until the Gemini and the Apollo programs that they would have 2 to 3 people flying. I believe Gemini was 2, and then Apollo came 3.
Well, I know there were 3 people in Apollo 13.
Well, yeah. So the Apollo program was to basically get to the moon. That was that point of that. That's why you had to have 3 people, 2 people to land the rover or the LEM onto the moon, and 1 person to be able to orbit the moon and be able to redock and get back home. So anyway, this one dives so deep into the physicality of it and all the stress tests and things that they had to go through. Because mind you, we'd never done this before, so they were just kind of making stuff up, like basically locking the guys in a room for days and just in chairs because you had to simulate like being in a capsule. So they're basically just in this room reading magazines, and then they'd start doing like all these alarms and sirens and smoke things to see who could handle it. But yeah, so it's really funny to watch.
Sounds like torture.
Yeah, but well, I mean, you have to though, because you didn't know what it was going to be like. So you'd have to put them to the brink of what we would expect it would be.
Psychological torture.
Yes. Yes. And the physical too, because they have one where they're all challenging each other. They have to blow into this tube
and keep the ping
little
pong ball
in the water. And I think they said the record at the time was like 90 seconds. So you get all these guys, and you see some of them, they're going out early, like it's about to explode. And you got Gordon Cooper, who Dennis Quaid plays. And he's just sitting there, just keeps going, watching the clock, and just gets it past a little past 90 seconds because he thinks he's the best. And then he gets done. He's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden,
passes out.
No, he says, yeah. And then someone taps him on the shoulder. They look over, and there's John Glenn, another guy, still going. So he's just, and he could have kept going, but
like, damn it.
But it's about all the stuff about the first flight, first American in space. Shepard goes up there, then Gus Grissom, and he goes up there, and it's all about the big uh, the big headache that went through when his um, what do you call it? The explosives on the hatch launched out or exploded when he landed. So they had explosive hatch just in case, in order for emergencies to get out, and it wasn't supposed to go off, but because it went off early before the helicopter could get to the actual capsule,
Yeah, he almost
it started
drowns.
getting water in there, and so they lost the capsule. So it was a big thing about that. He got dinged. But anyway, it goes on and on about it, and they go through all their missions and everything. But it's all about their personal lives and about how they deal with it and their wives and families and all this other stuff. So it's very, very, very good movie.
Like Gary
I
Sinise's
recommend
character in Apollo 13.
And there's one real sweet moment in it too, because there's Dennis Quaid's character. Like I said, Gordon Cooper. He's always basically saying from the beginning of the movie, he's like talking to his wife, and so he's like, "Who's the best pilot you ever saw?" He thinks he's the best pilot ever, and he's always asking everybody. He's like, "Whenever anybody asks me who's the best pilot I ever saw, I'm going to say me," and it's all about him. And then they go through this program together, and there's one scene where they're all in this big mass media meeting, and he's sitting there, and they're, "Gordon, mind if I ask you a few questions?" He's like, "Sure." And he's like, "Who's the best pilot you ever saw?" And after working with all these guys and all the stuff they've been through, he really can't say. He's like, every one of us is, every one of them is a great pilot. I can't, word for word what he says, but it's a real nice moment because he finally lets go of his ego and realizes that
It's called
all a
character
team.
growth.
Yeah.
It's nice when that happens in movies.
And it's Dennis Quaid. He's an amazing actor, so he really pulls it. So the right stuff. Check it out. It is available on Tubi and some other available platforms. You will have to sit with commercials, but if you want to not have commercials, I do have a copy of it in my little
Your little library.
Yes. So, great stuff. Recommended. Good movie. Go.
Thumbs up from Tony.
And scene.
And we're ready for launch.
So mine is it's called Fly Me to the Moon.
Yeah.
And so it came out, and just spoilers for anyone else. Huh? Exactly, yes. They do sing that. But spoilers for anybody who is interested in seeing it. You can turn this off for because it did kind of recently come out. I think it's 2024 was the release, like the end of 2024 was the release.
Yep.
But so when I looked at it, like the previews and everything kind of made me feel like it was going to be a comedy movie. And I didn't really get that from it. It was more of like, it was as much of a comedy as The Breakup was.
Oh, okay.
Like that was built, like all the funny scenes were in the trailer.
Yeah.
And that's it. Everything else was serious as shit. But I mean, with the same aspect of it, I think it actually came out being a better movie than it kind of, because what I thought it was supposed to be like the spoof of the moon landing, and how they actually did, create a set for it to be. They essentially created a set on NASA's site at Port Canaveral, and created a moon atmosphere, and it was almost identical to what like the NASA or the astronauts actually get there on, and they did that because they didn't want to. They were in the space race was such a huge thing against Russia. Russians were already winning. They put the first satellite in space. They put the first human in space. Now we wanted to be the first to the moon. Was our ordeal, and so it starts off like with or kind of like almost just before maybe halfway point is Apollo 10 launches, and that goes up, and they're trying to win funding to keep Apollo 11, which was the one that was going to the moon, to keep that in the books, and because they didn't have funding to finish the project. They had up until Apollo 10, and tensions were starting to mount in
The Cold War?
no, not the Cold War, but for Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Starting to heat up there, and so a lot of these senators that they're bringing to the facility, they're like, well, my constituents, there were big floods, this past season there. A lot of people think this money should be sent to them for all this other stuff, and it's always So I skipped way ahead. So the start of it,
I told you that story to tell you this.
Yes.
the start of it is Scarlett Johansson.
Well,
Scarlett
you have my attention.
Johansson is like the best marketer ever. So it opens up on a scene of her basically trying to get Ford to install seatbelts in their cars because they're optional at this point in the 60s.
Oh.
So it takes place.
How's the human race still alive sometimes?
I think it starts in like 67 and then, or maybe 68. And then like by almost the end of the year 69 is when we launched the actual mission. But so it kind of goes into show is like that Apollo mission. And I didn't know this because I hadn't followed it that closely, but NASA had really just been a, private entity. Hadn't really done a lot of advertising outside of like trying to recruit for college and stuff like that. So she comes in and basically sells the private sector in NASA. And but the other end of it is because they're a government agency, they can't take private money.
Mm.
So she gets the program so interested that Congress won't pull out of what America is now interested in.
Smart.
So she brings in Omega, the first watches that were worn to the moon. Omega watches, all the astronauts wore them.
No wonder that they cost more than Rolexes at this point.
Exactly.
But they are stupid nice. I
went
really
to the
want
moon.
one.
Tang.
Oh yeah, that was a joke in Coneheads. Like, I'm just gonna have some Tang.
Yeah.
Earth going to moon.
Yeah, exactly. It's what the astronauts take. Ovaltine, like all these other brands
Drink your Ovaltine.
that she worked on getting that marketing, and she basically sold NASA and made it a public interest. So that was one part of the movie, and that was. I didn't even you look at the previews this is nothing. I didn't gather any of this through any of the scenes that you showed me.
I feel misled in the advertising of this movie.
So Channing Tatum plays Cole Davis, and he's the head of the facility of Port Canaveral. So he runs the launch unit there. And after the launch unit goes off, they back away and it goes to Houston. So it's not Port Canaveral anymore. As soon as they're out of the atmosphere, then Mission Control shifts over to Houston. But he was wearing, and I don't know if this is where they got the inspiration for Captain Kirk, but every other scene, all the other folks are in there, white shirt, black tie, and he's got on this cardigan or just shirt, and it's yellow. And so I don't know if it's a callback to Captain Kirk or if the inspiration actually came from Cole Davis, the guy who was playing.
You never know.
Ray Romano's in it as well. He's I think he's
I
the
haven't heard in
lead
a hot minute.
engineer. I think
Is which one?
the lead engineer for the site.
Okay.
And it's wild, because I've never been there, even though I've been in Florida for a while. But Port Canaveral, at the time that was the tallest one-story building in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Because that's where they assembled the rocket. They assembled it in this enclosed facility.
You can't get in there anymore.
You can't?
No, they officially closed that to the public. God, it's been X amount of years. Whenever I think the Thor 1 or 2 came out was when it shut down. I got to go in there.
Like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah, they shut it down completely.
Well, I'm not going anymore.
I mean, you can still go up to it. You just can't go inside of it anymore.
Man.
Legally.
Unless they reopened it, I don't know. But they were permanently closing it for a while.
Yeah.
Bolt cutters and an acetylene torch will get you in if you really want it.
But I will say this: when you go in there and just look up, it does give you a feeling of vertigo.
Yeah.
Or you get an awkward feeling because you're like, oh my god, because you just see all this
Scaffolding.
everything's
just
up. And it almost makes you a little dizzy when you look up. Yeah,
It's like,
somebody grab me. Trust fall.
like we went to go see Clue the play when we were in the very back row. I'm looking down. Ooh, hold on.
Nope, didn't sign up for that. So she ends up getting recruited by Woody Harrelson, this is a perfect role for him. He's basically the government guy. And He says, it's like, what do you work? Who do you work for? I work for the president's office. So in other words, OGS or OGS, other government, agency.
One of those 3-letter
that's,
things.
That's not, not
Official.
exactly on the books, but yeah.
Somebody somewhere has a file on what he does.
Exactly.
We're a
Because
private entity.
he knows everything about her, and that's basically how he recruits her to come in and do the.
He's the cancer man from X-Files.
Pretty much. He's Jared from
Subway?
Deadpool.
Oh.
Subway.
Yeah,
Nobody
from
wants to be
Subway.
Jared from Subway anymore.
No.
Yeah.
That's Patrick's opinion, not ours.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Patrick has said something that doesn't line up with Movie Talks and Chill values.
Yeah.
It's been 0 days.
Yep.
0 days since incident.
Real quick, that 0 days. There's I just rewatched the movie Nobody with Bob Obendirk, or however you pronounce his last name. In the final fight, he's in his machine workshop and he's right next to the how many days since your last accident. And just before he gets out of cover to go shoot someone, he just erases it. Please continue. That's
Okay.
oh yeah, I'll sidetrack the shit out of this if you want me to.
So that's who recruits Scarlett Johansson to come in, and so she meets Cole, and at a diner before she actually meets him on the job, they have a little exchange. There's instantly some sexual attraction there, and then he sees her, and all they do for the rest of the movie is butt heads, because he was a military guy. So Cole Davis was apparently the best, or they walk through it in the show, when they were first doing the program, he was unable. He was a Korean fighter pilot, but he was unable to go through the program because he had a heart murmur.
Yep.
And that's they kicked him out for stress issues, not any kind of physicality.
Wait, who are you talking about now?
His name's Cole Davis.
Cole Davis? Okay, because I know that same thing happened to one of the original 7 astronauts that was Deke Slayton also. And he ended up running the program later. And he had a heart fibrillation, so they took him off the roster as well.
So this may be, okay, maybe they changed the names.
Maybe, I don't know.
To protect the incident.
But yeah. Well, and this is also in the late 60s, not the early 50s.
Yeah, no, Deke Slayton stayed in through almost the whole program.
Gotcha.
But same exact scenario. He was not able to
So
go
I mean,
fight.
he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, the whole time, and she doesn't really understand why he's so upset, and he was also responsible for the Apollo 1 mission, where all the pilots died,
burned up.
and in the capsule. So that's kind of one of his big things that he's carrying with him through the whole movie too. But so what happens is Woody Harrelson comes to Scarlett Johansson, and he says, "Look, we've got too much invested in this. The whole nation's going to be watching. We've got too much invested in this for this to fail. So we want you to make a set." And so the second half of the movie is them basically going through there, taking all these pictures of the private stuff that's going on with NASA, all their research, what they plan on doing, where they plan on landing, what it's going to look like, and they create in a warehouse there, and they shoot it shot for shot because I didn't know this, they rehearsed getting out of the LEM. They rehearsed the first few steps they'll take. They rehearsed where they want the camera. All of that was already done. So they didn't just land on the moon and be all right, I want to put this here. No, they did it 100 times beforehand so that nothing would fuck up.
Yeah. That the heart murmur story about the real life guy and the character in this movie, that sounds like Gary Sinise's character in Apollo 13. He was slated to go up on that mission, but they found something wrong with him.
No. That in that particular case, they thought he had the measles.
Oh,
That's why
that's
he wasn't
right.
allowed to go up there.
Okay, please continue.
So anyway, there's Scarlett Johansson rats to Cole Davis that they're doing this. They've been keeping it secret from him on the site the whole time, and I mean, to create the set, they basically had carte blanche with the budget. Woody Harrelson was like, whatever you need to get this done and get this done in a month, you have it. So the only thing is you can't get caught. and if you do, we disavow everything. But so there's like a monitor where they're watching both, like the feed that they're doing and then the one coming in from the moon. And so they were supposed to hijack the feed, and they ended up doing it, but they couldn't. But everything was so like exactly the same, like they couldn't tell if they were watching the fake feed or if they were watching the one actually coming from the moon. And so he's like, "Oh, you got to do something. You got to do something to throw off the actors. Like throw off your guys." And he's like, "I need to know. Like, are we watching? What are we watching?" So like hilarity ensues there. A cat comes in and runs across the scene and like jumps on one of the astronauts, and like then the whole like set starts flying apart. But the screen that they're watching, like nothing's happening. Like, so this is the moon. And then Woody Harrelson comes back and he's looking at it. He's like, "This is really the moon? Like this is really the feed that's looks fake." But I mean, it was like spot on. And so I guess that's where now. I mean, you could say maybe we still didn't. People won't believe it. And even they even say it in there is like, people probably won't even believe that we've done this. Like that this actually happened.
There's a lot of skeptics out there still.
I mean, hell, we convinced people that the Earth wasn't round, and then it came back. Like, have you ever flown on a plane, you idiot? The Earth is not flat.
Bunch of flat
In ancient
earthers.
Greek, they proved it with math. It's in a textbook.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're an orb. We're a circular orb.
So anyway,
what did Carl Sagan call it? The big blue orb or something?
the third rock from the sun.
Well, now I'm thinking about John Lithgow.
I know. But they even said in there that like Russian propaganda basically said that it looked fake and that it was done from looked like it done on a movie set.
Mm.
And so that's kind of like where they fed the story to. Like it's so apparently they did it, but they didn't do it.
They did it just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds cool. I just wish I had access to Apple TV to watch it.
And there was like funny moments in there, but it was like it wasn't. Don't look at me.
Yeah, he like
I like
leaned
Daddy
in.
Warbucks.
Apple.
Apple. I'll get you an apple.
I don't want one.
How about them apples?
Yeah.
Oh, there is a scene in there where they're freaking out, and it's early on in the movie, and so they couldn't. It was I don't think it's liquid O2. I think is what the fuel or whatever it is. Their mixture that they're mixing, but it's colorless and odorless. So like there's things that they have in this warehouse that detect the leak, but no one can see it. So Channing Tatum comes in. He's an old fighter pilot, not old but older, and he's like, what? I'll figure out how we do it. And he's like taking a broom around all the containers to see where it was, and the broom catches on fire. And I didn't know like liquid nitrogen or whatever it is that like when it hits straw it turns into flame. So it like does that, and he like finds the one that it is and he shuts it off, but apparently it wasn't the one in front, it was the one in back.
Oh no.
And then it like blows up and he gets shot across the room. And this is probably the funniest part of the whole movie. And he comes in there and he's like, all the like kids are like, so the average age of NASA at this time is like 25. So they're literally kids just fresh out of college. And he's like, all right, so our new technique is going to be the broom method. And he's like yelling at everybody. And he's like, and he's looking at it, it's still kind of on fire. We're going to need a new broom. And that's the funniest part of the movie. And one of the kids was like, because he walks in the door and goes, oh my God, I thought he was dead.
It's kind of like in the first Iron Man when he's first testing everything out.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
like gets thrown into the wall
Or when he tries to lift off, he goes straight into the
what I mean, yeah.
ceiling.
I can fix that. I
Yeah.
can fix that.
Not the Lamborghini, not the Lamborghini. Oh no.
If you hose me, you're going for spare parts.
Well, Patrick, you're up.
It's finally my turn.
Da, da, da.
So the movie I watched about NASA, and hear me out, is High School Musical. So if you think of, if there's a There's a reading of the story that Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens are actually aliens, and NASA creates a high school simulation to see how they would fit into society, but they just keep breaking it into song for no apparent reason. So at the end of High School Musical 3, after all of these tests, they don't show you this because Disney's are cowards. They just execute them because they can't stop singing. And it's just
that's
annoying.
Patrick's opinion also, Disney.
Show me the real cut of High School Musical, you cowards. No, so the real movie that I watched, not to say that High School Musical isn't a real movie, but the real NASA movie I watched.
Land you plane.
Yes.
If I told you there was a NASA movie out there that involved moon pirates, a space ape attack, and a knife fight in zero G, on paper, that sounds awesome. But somehow they made it one of the worst movies I've ever seen, ever. It's called Ad Astra with Brad Pitt.
Sorry, Brad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brad.
Well, even after watching this movie, I went into the awards and nomination. It did get nominated for an Oscar, but it was for sound mix. And Brad Pitt, the writer, the director, no one got nominated outside of the sound engineer, the audio engineer.
Good for you, sound.
Yep. But it's.
I wonder if they got Razzies.
So it's a 2-hour-long movie. It basically, Brad Pitt's dad was a pioneer in the astronaut program, and he goes on what they called the Lima project. And this project was to go into deep space, like he winds up in like Neptune. You find out later that the psychological stress of being alone or with crew for that long, I think back then it took 16 years to get from the Earth to Neptune. You find out that Tommy Lee Jones just basically went insane and killed his entire crew. He's like, they're not dedicated, and they attacked me, and I responded in kind. But the military or NASA, they get a signal from the Lima project after 30 years. Be like, what? And then apparently the fuel that they use to get him that far is causing Neptune to shoot out like electrical space beams towards Earth, and it's causing all these electrical problems. So they send Brad Pitt on a top secret mission to go find the Lima project. So first he has to travel to the moon. There is some blatant product integration in this. Like he goes to the moon on a commercial flight on Virgin Atlantic's, space shuttle, and he asked for a pillow and blanket, and it cost him $130. That's nuts to me.
Well, it's a long flight.
Yeah.
Imagine being a smoker on that flight.
Oh my God.
Every 16 years.
You'd quit. You'd have to.
Well, yeah.
But so to make sure that his cover is intact, he flies commercial on Virgin Atlantic to the moon, which is basically just a giant mall where the America has their base. Because they go up this escalator, and then you see a sign for Subway, and there's not Radio Shack, but another electronics kind of store. And I was like, okay, so Subway is not only the biggest franchise on this planet, we're now on the moon.
They didn't have a Sbarro's there? What if you want some pizza?
Yeah, surprised they didn't have Cinnabon.
I mean, maybe they do. I only saw one concourse.
It's on the east side.
Yeah.
They got an Orange Julius here.
Is that Macy's? do they have a Santa that comes every year?
Damn, that's a hard flight.
But so Brad Pitt is now on the moon with Russell Sutherland, I believe his name is, because he's the colonel that's backing him up. But when they get to the moon, they have to go to the far side of the moon for this top secret shuttle launch to Mars, so that Brad Pitt can send a encrypted laser communication to Lima and try and talk to Tommy Lee Jones, see what's going on. But Donald Sutherland can't make the shuttle. He has a heart defect, and he gives Brad Pitt the top secret message that he wasn't once he gets to the moon, everything else is need to know. And Russell Sutherland's like, you need to know this, even though I'm not supposed to tell you. And you find out his orders are to kill Tommy Lee Jones. So now he has to get from the moon base, which is on the light side. He has to go to the far side where the top secret shuttle launch is. But there are moon pirates, Now, that sounds awesome, and it was kind of a cool scene because they're on rovers and they're driving around with military, and then they see pirates, and they're like, all right, I'm moving in to flank you, and they're firing, shooting out tires and everything. And Brad Pitt's just like, give me a weapon, because he's like a major in the Air Force, I believe. But like the two escorts, they get taken out, and then they shoot the lieutenant who is escorting him. Since it's on the moon, he weighs nothing. He literally just picks him up and just throws him that way. Then he gets in the driver's seat. He kills two people, and then they get hit. I think pit maneuvered into a canyon.
Doesn't a satellite take one of them out too? Like a satellite defense?
No, so when they get close to the secret launch pad, they fire a couple missiles and just detonate them. So then he gets on the secret space shuttle, and then they're going to Mars, and I think it says it's going to take him 17 days to get from the moon to Mars.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah. But on the way to Mars, they get a distress signal from another rocket or space station or something like that. And the captain's like, it's obligation. I have to stop for a mayday. And Brad Pitt's like, we can't. Mission comes first. We just let someone else take care of it. And they're like, you have the ability to override my command and take command, but then you'll have to tell me what the hell this mission is. He's like, shit. All right, let's go investigate. And then it's a full-on ape attack because it was a habitat for primate and chemical research. And these baboons just went feral. And they killed everybody on the ship, and then they took out the captain of Brad Pitt's ship by eating his arm and then bashing in his helmet. He's dead. That's probably the funniest thing I've ever said, and also the coolest thing in the movie. The ape attack in space. So then...
Get your filthy hands off me, you damn dirty ape.
Yeah, pretty much. So they get to Mars, and I think he sends in the communication, but nothing, like he now needs to go to the Lima project over by Neptune. But the problem is all throughout this movie, every astronaut is doing psychological testing. So they have to put a device on their artery to test their heart rate, and then they have to speak into a computer like, how are you feeling? How are you coping with the mission and all that fun stuff? And throughout this entire, you were cleared to, continue on your space exploration. But he gets to Mars and he does it, and they're like, yeah, you're not going anywhere near Lima Station, ever. And then he speaks to the Mars psychologist, and that's where you learn that Tommy Lee Jones just snapped and killed everyone. And she's like, NASA just wanted to protect the image of them, so they made him out to be a hero, even though he was a dirty piece of garbage.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Mm-hmm. So he's talking, and the psychologist, her parents were on that Lima project. So she's like, your father killed them. I need you to go take care of him. I can get you onto this shuttle. After that, you're on your own. He's like, okay. So they drive out.
All right.
Yeah.
Meh.
Cool.
So they drive out to the shuttle. Beijing on distance, it looks like the shuttle is about 5 miles away. He opens this little hatch, goes down into a tunnel, has to swim through an underwater lake that they apparently have created. And then you can, there's a little countdown on his wrist, like when this rocket's gonna, lift off, and he's cutting it very close. He's cutting it so close to where he gets underneath the rocket, you could see the sparks starting to go into the engine. Yeah. So he's just literally climbing up this rocket as it's about to take off. It actually launches while he's trying to open up the airlock, and everyone's like, somebody just breached our airlock. What do you want us to do? Well, hold on, we're figuring it out. It's Brad Pitt. Tell us what to do. And they neutralize him any way possible. So there's a fight with two of them, and I guess they detach the main thruster, and that shoves them straight to the ground. And one of them just face plants onto the hatch and dies instantly. And the other one just grabs a knife or something from the side and tries to have a knife fight in 0G, which was, once again, cool sentence, not very well portrayed in the film. And then somebody else grabs a gun and fires, misses, and it hits a canister, and it just starts spinning around the entire room. It doesn't hit anyone, but it replaces all of the oxygen, so they all just suffocate. Brad Pitt's in a spacesuit, so he's fine, but everyone else is dead. So then he starts making a log of what he's doing. Like, due to my actions, everyone's dead. He shoves them out of port. And he's like, this is a lie. I'm turning off communication so I'm not detected when I get close to the Lima project. This will be my last recording until then. And then the computer says, 79 days and 4 hours until you reach your destination. And then you do a quick little montage of how he's surviving in this 79-day stretch. It's basically like, to make sure his muscles don't atrophy, he has like electrical pads that stimulate the muscles, and he has to inject a feeding tube. And there's even a line, he's like, not only is this wearing on me physically, it's mentally as well. So you kind of see where how Tommy Lee Jones could have like snapped.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
After 16 years.
Yeah. He finally gets the Lima project. There's no response on the radio call. The hatch is disabled, so he can't dock with his little probe. So he bandages it, and then he manually opens it and everything. And then Tommy Lee Jones is like, Roy, is that you? Brad Pitt is called Roy. He's like, I have cataracts, can't see that well. Fun fact, I looked up the trivia after watching this movie. They think long-term, like super long-term exposure to solar radiation in space can cause cataracts. So this was on the accurate side. So well done for that one. Good on you, Ad Astra.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to get solar radiation at the farthest planet in our universe. Though.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm here to take you home, Dad.
That's why that damn planet's covered in ice.
Yeah. He's like, I'm here to take you home. He's like, son, you can tell that he's just straight up insane at this point. He's like, son, I don't care. I never cared about you, your mother, or anything like that. I'm here to do God's work and find extraterrestrial life. He's like, I know, Dad, but I'm still taking you home. He's like, okay. He's just like, fine, you win. So they're trying to go back to Brad Pitt's shuttle. Another quick energy burst from Neptune knocks them off. So they're spinning around in space. Brad Pitt's trying to save his dad for some dumbass reason. And he's like, son, you gotta let me go. So you're falling asleep listening to this recap. Imagine what happened when I was trying to watch this movie. We're almost done, I promise. You can make it.
I'm just wondering where the NASA portion of this actually comes into play.
Well,
Well,
it's
he's
all
a NASA
run essentially by
NASA.
NASA.
Yeah. He's a NASA astronaut. He's at the NASA moon base. He's at the NASA Mars base.
I love that that's the connection.
Yeah.
It just says NASA on a couple badges.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every ship they ride says NASA, minus the Virgin X.
Yeah. But basically, he has to let Tommy Lee Jones to survive, and he gets back to his shuttle. And he's like, he makes an audio log on the black box, and he's like, if I don't make it, you have to recover this ship for all the data that I've selected. But he basically arrives back on Earth, and even though he's killed 5 people and witnessed a space ape attack, they don't arrest him or anything like that.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Let him through.
Yeah. And then he's just having coffee, and his ex-wife, who's played by Liv Tyler, like walks in, and like the first time ever you can see him smile in this movie.
Oh.
Yeah. The end. Horrible movie. I do not recommend it.
A lot of information
Wow.
for a horrible movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you wanted me to watch a NASA movie.
You
I
know,
watched
he
the NASA
takes-
movie.
It's not really a
He
NASA
takes
movie.
he
but-
takes more notes on bad movies than he does good
I
movies.
know, right? So
Bad movies are funny, except for this one. Except for this space ape attack. I just love saying that sentence.
I've never seen any documentary on NASA where there's been space apes. Or
Yet.
or a Royal Virgin Caribbean liner on the moon, or a mall on the moon. But hey, you know what? You suffered through it, so that's good.
I did.
Right.
Glad you had some pain.
But I mean, I would gladly talk about Armageddon. I don't need to rewatch that movie to talk about it.
I say to rewatch anything. But also we have, because we don't have too much time, but I want to bring up a couple other key ones too. It's like movies like Hidden Figures,
Hidden
Apollo
Figures.
13.
Hidden Figures was excellent.
Yeah, Hidden Figures is really good. That one, I like the difference of that one because it breaks down the background, like people doing the mathematics of everything,
Right.
Like all the calculations. Because what people don't realize is a lot of this stuff was done by people back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, there's
the computers couldn't do. I mean, you actually had back then. It was when you had to feed the computers the information
Exactly.
for them to calculate
the
it.
dot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a famous photo of Jack Black's mom who did part of the coding for the original space shuttle, and the data is just as tall as she is.
Oh yeah.
It's like 5.5 feet worth of punch cards and stuff like that.
But it wasn't so much the computers doing it. It was like these are people actually having. Now, obviously, every person has to create a system in software to run, but these guys, they had to be on site all the time. It wasn't just like,
Right.
hey, run this new Microsoft update,
Exactly,
and you'll
yeah.
have the new program that automatically does this. And no, this was.
They have
every-
Oppenheimer level physicists
Yeah.
on site doing the math.
And that's another reason why, if you ever get a chance, even though it's not a movie, that miniseries From Earth to the Moon, that's very good because they show every aspect of the whole program. It's really interesting on that. But
I know it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but Apollo 13 is also a fantastic movie. I love that one. Like I said, we've talked about Gary Sinise's character. He can't go onto the shuttle. He has to drop out, so he becomes Houston, and he's the mission commander, in Houston. But there's this really funny scene, and I love it. It's all right. Something's broken. They need to fix it. Like, we need to fit this square peg into this round hole, and then they dump. This is what they have to work with. It's like one extra spacesuit and a couple extra, like a sandwich bag or something like that. And they do it, and then like this is what you need to do. And then Kevin Bacon's like, shit, I tore the bag. What do we do? They're like, I don't know.
I have one outcome, and it included this damn bag, so get it right.
But there is a really cool scene when, to get them back home, they have to slingshot around the moon to send them, to use the gravity to send them back. And they all wanted to go onto the moon, and Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and who was the third one? And I can't remember. Do you?
yeah, it was Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton. They're all, when they're slingshotting around the moon, they're all just staring out of this one window and be like, this is the closest we're ever going to get to the moon, fellas. Enjoy it. So for I think it's like 15 or 20 seconds, it's just silence of them and looking at the moon. It's just like showing how, how badly they wanted to, and this is the closest they're going to get. So even though their lives are in very much a lot of danger, they're taking this time to just experience the moment.
You might as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, because we might be dead.
Yeah.
So if anything else, we're going to look at the moon for a bit. See that, guys? That's where you're never going.
That sure is purdy.
So glad we sat in this capsule together for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, just like,
Kevin
Apollo,
Bacon tore that fucking bag.
on the Apollo 11, any other of the Apollo missions, one person had to stay back there on the ship anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, how shitty would it be for you to be that one person? I got, this was, however million miles it is from
Earth to the
Earth's
moon.
surface to the moon. Like,
Yeah.
I traveled this many and I can't go the extra 3 miles to get on the damn surface.
Well, they were responsible
Neil,
for
get your ass up
taking-
here. I'm taking that thing down.
Yeah.
Well, they were responsible for taking the survey photos. So as they were orbiting, they were taking that's how they figured out like which, what other craters, what other areas to do landings on in the future. Because they didn't always land in the same spot. A couple
Right.
times they did.
Yeah, Neil, they landed in the Sea of Tranquility, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
they
then-
tried. It was much more rocky and they had to push it a little bit past it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I do know that they installed mirrors on the moon so scientists can shoot lasers back and forth to do some experiments.
Let's see what Earth looks like. Comb her hair.
Yeah,
Comb her hair.
they did it in Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Because we are now about to fire our laser at the moon. It's like, sounds so exciting. It's like, wait. And I think that Cooper probably was like, what if we blow it up? And they're all looking like, stop it.
Well, going back to your point though, when you're talking about being, being the guy that's, doing the command module that basically stuck up there doing orbiting. Imagine this, so even worse is because with Apollo 13, just like some other missions, Apollo 13 was originally supposed to be Alan Shepard and his crew, and because he had his whatever it was with his something in his ear, some kind of infection or something he was diagnosed with, and it came back. So basically, when you had a crew, it wasn't like, oh, if someone's not feeling well or if someone can't go, so we'll just fill that space in.
Right.
No, the whole crew got bumped.
Exactly, yeah.
So can you imagine that you're working all where you're on this mission and like right before it's like somebody gets pegged off and you're like,
Well, shit.
yeah, sorry guys, maybe next time.
We're not going to the moon because you caught the flu?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? You go drink some orange juice and you get your ass onto that space shuttle.
You get out there, you find that damn dog.
But that was what they all, and that's why they all had to, from the very beginning of the program, they told them that. Like, and I've seen a lot of documentaries about it too, and they've said, it's a tough thing, but it's like any other thing. You have to treat it like a military. It's you take your orders and things happen, and if you don't go, you don't go. And yes, you may be slated, but until you're on that rocket,
Yeah.
and you're launching, anything can happen. You can be taken off. It could be scrapped.
Weather,
Yep.
yeah.
And that's why some of the guys were all like, that's why they all work together. So all those astronauts, they didn't just get into a capsule and that was it. Like that wasn't their only job. They all worked every aspect of it. So if there was not land surveying, but if there was surveying to be done as one of the groups was up there, like orbiting, like back in the Mercury and Gemini
Everyone knew how to
programs,
do that.
someone had to travel to Australia and they'd be in an observation satellite room working on that, or they would all put in their input on different things. They had heavy influence on policies and procedures. Wally Schirra was the one who created the wind level procedure or the wind shear procedure, because he basically said, he's like, you got a rocket and the tower's like right here, basically. And he's like, if you go up or if something happens, and you launch and you have to eject the capsule, like let's say something's happening on the rocket, there was an auto eject where the capsule would launch, separate from it. And he's like, you just meant to land in water. He's like, but if you launch a thing and the wind catches it and it brings you back on land, he's like, that's a bad day for everybody. So they said, he's like, what do you suggest? He's like, if the wind speed's above this, we do not launch. And it was those astronauts had that power to basically tell them, no, he's like, you guys are not up there with us. We're doing it. So they set policies. They worked in, mission control, and they would do odds and ends stuff, and basically a little bit of everything. A lot of them helped design certain things, reconstruct, rebuild.
Pioneers, love them.
Yep, and they all were MIT or some kind of tech graduates and stuff, and that's why one of the only reasons they said, like, everyone always wondered why Chuck Yeager never went, because he was a test pilot. Why he never got in? He didn't have a college degree. That was a thing you had to have for sure in order to get in.
So you could be the best test pilot in the world, but if you didn't go to college, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough. Real quick, there's a funny story about Buzz Aldrin. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast or not, but he's in town doing a press conference or something, and we're talking like early 2000s or something like that. Reporter calls him, he's like, hey, I was wondering if you had time for a 5-minute interview. Just real quick. I know you have other things to do. He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, all right, cool. I'm downstairs outside your hotel. Let's just meet up right there. He's like, cool. See you there in 5 minutes. He goes to talk to a reporter, and the reporter's like, admit it. You never went to the moon. You were on a soundstage in Burbank. Admit it right. He decks him. Just lays out this guy.
Oh yeah, that was on. They did that. Showed that on TV.
Yeah. He just lays. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. He just lays him out.
Boomsies.
Don't fuck with Buzz Aldrin. He may be 80, but but he's still got some fight in him.
Those guys lasted long, man. But they were in top flight health. I mean, they
had
like
to be
the healthiest people in the world, probably.
Yeah, right up there with Olympic athletes.
And they all got Corvettes too.
Yeah,
that was a cool thing.
Yeah, they did. They all got red Corvettes. There's a scene in there where they pull up 3 red Corvettes for them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
And usually the whoever the not commander, because they always had the pilot, the commander, and then there was somebody else, out of the 3 of them when they would go up
or something.
No, but they all had their own title. But like one was a pilot, one was a commander, and one was something. I can't remember what they called them. But usually whoever that main person was the one that would get their stuff badged on their Corvettes. So they'd have like their mission badge or their name on it.
That's cool.
But I mean, NASA took care of it. But those guys didn't make a lot of money. Yeah. Like everyone thought that those guys were rich. No, they had the housing was taken care of, just like military, and they got cars. And usually, like, basically, if you went up into space, any restaurant you went into wasn't going to charge you. But as far as
they were making like $15 an hour. Or something.
Your paycheck was. I mean, they were probably making okay, but they weren't making like no pun intended, astronomical amounts of money. Like they weren't pulling in.
They
like
weren't Jeff
6
Bezos.
figures or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, back then they were probably doing like maybe 40, 50 grand a year.
I mean, to be fair, back then that's a lot of money.
That was a lot of money, but not a massive amount of money.
But it's not the dollar amount you would figure for somebody who's going into space.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you should at least get hazard pay.
Well, they did. I mean, the families were definitely set up in the event.
Yeah. There was a big insurance policy for the family.
There's a great line in Armageddon by Steve Buscemi. He's like, "Yeah, I went to MIT and blah blah blah." And he's like, "But Harry, are we gonna get hazard pay for this?"
I mean, it's a fair question.
Well, I also like when they're doing the the psychological thing on him. He's telling him he's like, yeah, I've got two graduate degrees and doctorate this blah 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 blah. He's like, why do I do what I do? Because it's short hours, pays good, and I get to handle explosives. That's why.
There's another. So
You gotta
the
do what you
Fucking
love,
rock
man.
hound.
the movie you watch and you told like how they created this like vacuum space to simulate what it was like in space, and they do that in Armageddon. And Michael Clark Duncan, he's like, "Why are we doing this?" And the actual astronaut, he's like, "Bear, we're doing this. So if I kick you in the nuts while we're up there, you don't go flying into space." And he's like, "Yes, ma'am."
That's a fair statement.
That's a fair statement. That was the one thing they couldn't simulate that because again it's like it's
Oh, yeah.
1968, so they had guys on pulleys, and so as they would jump, like they're acting like they're weightless. The you can't see the wires on it. There's guys pulling the actors and having them jump, and then like timing it with how they think they're going to jump on the moon.
That's cool.
So I mean, like they got the detail that they did. Like they had the rover or the lens spot for spot detail. They had the camera angle. The director like that's one of the coolest things I will say is like the director gets on set and she's trying to figure out. He's trying to figure out. All right, so we're staging the moon. Do we know what kind of dust it is going to be out there? Is there any wind? What's it going to look like when they jump from spot to spot? Where's the light going to be? Where's my son? I have to have all of this in a fucking warehouse. And like the director like goes off on like all this list, and Scarlett Johansson's just sitting there like, yeah. It's like 'cause she does advertising great. But creating a scene for like a movie, like I mean, this guy was spot on for it, and it was awesome. Like how he broke everything down of like what they would need.
Oh, and that's basically how NASA thought too when they were doing that. So there's
Well, exactly, and that's where they like
Yeah.
stole all of it from.
Yeah.
And
so I'm saying that's how their thought process is on it.
he's walking off. And he goes, "Where's my trailer?" Of course, there's no trailer. You wouldn't think of that. Why would you think of that? You didn't think about where the fucking sun is on the moon.
Well, there's one scene in that documentary I was telling you about, and when they first after they get Alan Shepard up there, he only did just quick little pop gun shot. He was up there 15 minutes, didn't even orbit fully, just went up for 15 minutes and dropped back down. But he goes in and they're meeting everybody. He's like, all right, so they want us to go to the moon now, so how, and he's going through every stage. I'm not going to go through them all because we only got about a couple minutes left. But he's basically like, can we do this? He's like, now we got to get somebody, long-term travel. What's that going to do to the human body? What's this going to do to this? What's this going to do to them mentally? He's like, can a human body survive in the vacuum of space? He's like, then we got to get out there and we got to walk around for a bit. He's like, we got to see, if we can be maneuverable. We got to build suits for this and this and this. And he's like, then we got to figure out, docking. He's like, can we dock in orbit? He's like, if you want to see how difficult it is, say, come over to my house over the weekend. He's like, I'll throw a tennis ball. What did he say? He's like, I'll throw a tennis ball from my backyard. You try to hit it with I can't remember what it was. It was like a ping pong paddle on the front yard. We'll see how good you do, or something along those lines. But and then he's like, we got to do all this, this, and this. And then he's like, we got to figure out the dock. We got to figure out how to land. We got to figure out how to be out there. And then he's like, what's the difference in space of being on the moon? The difference in gravity there when we're walking around. And he's like, we got to get so good at all this stuff that we hit it every time. And he's like, do we do it? He's like, I think we can. But we are about out of time, but I just wanted to bring up a couple other ones, like one of my favorite ones, The Martian. They actually said that is actually how NASA and them react and working out. That is probably a very accurate version of it.
I like Space Cowboys.
Space Cowboys is a great movie. There's a lot of good ones. Space Camp was fun. I enjoyed that one. That's the one where the robot launches the kid into space, or with the rest of the shuttle. But no, there's a lot of other ones out there. So again, apologies
Much better
we didn't
ones.
get to talk about them all. We can do NASA Part 2 in the future.
Oh,
That we
easily.
can.
NASA Part 2.
Yeah, give me a reason to watch Armageddon. I dare you.
Yeah, I just did. But from
Well,
all of you,
I don't know. I have to be in the mood to cry because I will cry at that end.
but we are out of time. Thank you guys so much for joining us talking NASA movies, and to Houston, this is Movie Talks and Chill.
Signing off.
We're signing off, but until next week for Movie Talks and Chill, we're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
All right, guys, take care. Don't forget, guys, you can visit us at our website, movietalksandchill.com. Email us at talktous@movietalksandchill.com, or find us on our YouTube channel.
You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Movie Talks and Chill.
You can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, coming soon to Apple Podcasts, CastBox, and Overcast.
New episodes available every Wednesday. Talk to you then. Theme music for our podcast was composed, arranged, and performed by Paul the Rock.